So guys, bodybuilding, relationships, intimacy, and libido. In this video, Sam and Kayla are going to speak about some of the lesser known topics surrounding bodybuilding. So we usually see the final product on stage, we see that glamorous physique, but what we don't see is the lead up to that stage day. And of course, there are many things that take place throughout a bodybuilding prep that can affect a competitor's lifestyle, potentially their relationships, intimacy, and libido as well. So for now, I'm just going to speak about some of the physiological implications that occur throughout a contest prep that may lead to these changes that we may experience and feelings that we may experience in relation to intimacy, libido, etc. So what we need to understand when we are entering a contest prep, and this is a vital piece of information for any competitor or any aspiring competitor looking to step on stage. If you don't understand these physiological implications, then you are essentially shooting yourself in the foot, because there will be a point where you will experience these things manifest, and if you don't understand that they are essentially a necessary part of the process, then you will struggle to overcome these changes, these implications that you may feel throughout a contest prep. So it's really important to understand that our body's main goal is to maintain what is known as homeostasis. So homeostasis is just the state of having a stable internal environment. And essentially, it's a biological adaptation that has taken place over many, many years that has allowed humans to, one, survive, and two, reproduce. Now, when you are in a contest prep, which is essentially a prolonged period of energy restriction, so a prolonged period where an individual is in an energy deficit, plus a prolonged period where an individual is also doing quite a lot of activity, quite a lot of exercise, a lot of energy expenditure, combined with a lowered food intake, that leads to this massive energy gap. That is essentially a threat to homeostasis. So by entering a contest prep, you are accepting this threat to homeostasis. And what this means is that your body has to find a way to maintain that internal environment, that stable internal environment, even when you are constantly increasing that energy gap over time to achieve that lean physique, which will allow you to step on stage looking like a bodybuilder. So what this means is that as the contest prep starts to extend, your body starts to distribute energy in a strategic manner. So if it starts to realize that energy restriction is increasing, it's going to distribute the energy that it is getting to vital processes within the body, processes that are going to maintain survival, because survival has to take precedence over reproduction. You can't reproduce if you're not alive, right? So survival is that number one factor that your body's homeostasis is trying to uphold. So like I said, what it's going to do is start distributing energy to vital processes that keep you alive. Now, what that means is there may not be much energy left over for processes that pertain to reproduction. So at a point throughout your contest prep, the energy restriction that you are experiencing is going to be of such a large magnitude, and it's going to be so prolonged that your body is not going to be able to spend any energy on those reproductive processes, right? Because there is just not much left over. And a really common and important concept to understand here is that it's not necessarily the energy deficit per se that is leading to these homeostatic changes and mechanisms kicking in. It's more so energy availability. So energy availability is this concept that is solely concerned about the difference in your energy expenditure from exercise only versus your food intake. Right? So that is similar to an energy balance, similar to energy deficit, but it's not, it's distinct. Now, when a competitor is doing so much activity, so much exercise, so much cardio, and even going out to do steps, that's a form of cardio. When that is so high and food intake is so low, the competitor is now also in a state of what is known as negative energy availability. And this is the state that really starts to kick these homeostatic mechanisms in, and this is what mainly leads to reproductive processes starting to diminish and essentially it gets to a point where these reproductive processes shut down. Now, this is very common and very noticeable in females. So females, as we all know, have what is known as a menstrual cycle, and it is quite common in a contest prep for the menstrual cycle to completely become non-existent. And this is just a form of, again, your body maintaining homeostasis. So at this point, it shuts down that reproductive process. So the reason females have a menstrual cycle is for reproductive purposes. And we see throughout a contest prep, in many cases, when a female gets lean, the menstrual cycle becomes non-existent. So that's one implication of a negative energy availability, okay, that leads to your body essentially being able to survive. So now all that energy that was once pushed towards the menstrual cycle is now harvested and kept for vital functions in the body that will allow for survival. So that's one really common implication we see throughout a contest prep. And of course, that also comes with a decrease in libido for females. Now, in males, we don't see any changes in menstrual cycle because they don't have a menstrual cycle. But what we see in males is very, very similar effects to females. So we see this plummeting in reproductive hormones, particularly testosterone. Okay, so testosterone levels essentially plummet at a point throughout a contest prep when a male is in this large or has acquired this large negative energy availability over time. And again, what that leads to is a decrease in libido. So this has essentially widespread effects over the human body. Okay, and libido is only one of these minor effects, but it's one of these effects that we don't really tend to speak about. Okay, if you think about all the effects that negative energy availability has on the body, there's numerous. And libido is one that can affect your relationships with your partner, intimacy, etc. And this is really important because at the end of the day, when entering a contest prep, we want to ensure that bodybuilding fits into our lifestyle and doesn't impact, or at least doesn't impact to an excessive extent, other areas of our life. Because too often it does, and that leads to potentially broken relationships and many other, undesirable things that we really don't go into a contest prep for. So again, it's really important that if you are an aspiring competitor, you understand what you are going in for and you understand the physiological implications that can take place. And these implications, they are absolutely fundamental, and you can't essentially get around them if you are looking to get very lean, okay, stage lean. So what I was speaking about when I said homeostasis and survival and negative energy availability, those factors there, they are essential for a stage physique. Okay, you must experience that to some extent. Some people will experience things, implications more than others, but they all must be experienced to some extent to get a very stage lean physique. It's important to understand it, and it's important to understand that, hey, this can also affect other areas of your life, like relationships, like friendships, social activity, etc. Okay, so we shouldn't shy away from these conversations. We should acknowledge the effects that a contest prep has on our physiology, and we should also acknowledge that we may need to speak to our partner about these things. We may need to speak to our friends about these things too, to ensure that we're on the same page with the people around us, and to ensure that bodybuilding doesn't affect our lifestyle, and we get to the stage in one piece. So hopefully that all made sense. And now I'm going to switch it over to Sam and Kayla.
Hello, welcome to Sam and Kayla's Couch of Love. Today we're going to be talking about really just relationships in bodybuilding and addressing some of the questions that we were asked or have been asked at various stages of, I guess, the process to date. A lot of people have misconceptions about what's involved, or maybe they're not entirely aware of the implications that bodybuilding or a contest prep, physique prep can have on those around you, particularly like your partner. So yeah, I guess we kind of put it out there to the people to submit any questions that they wanted us to answer, and then Kayla and I are going to just discuss how we prepared, Kayla's expectations, and kind of what we did to make sure we're on the same page about what was going to be unfolding over, not just weeks but months, and how we could best prepare and navigate those situations throughout. So, this is Kayla.
Hi.
Hi.
Hello. I think this is the first time I've been properly introduced on
She's
the
a
vlog.
nothing character in this vlog, but today she's going to get a special episode.
Thank you.
That's it. We made it.
Still got some humour, which is
Still
great.
got all the humour. So, question 1. Has the prep had a positive impact on you, Kayla?
Yes, I would say in the sense of maybe like being tidier with my eating. I don't think I've ever eaten this much like salads, lettuce, vegetables.
So much veg.
Like our dinners are rainbows of different food, or different food as in vegetables. But no, I think it's been a positive impact.
Okay. I guess we'll just leverage off that. Are there any other impacts outside of, say, just the diet that you have resulted from the changes?
It's hard to say because we're in COVID at the moment, so there are restraints on things that we can do regardless. So maybe that's it's a different situation because of what we're in at the moment. We can't really go out or do things, so we wouldn't be able to do them anyway if Sam wasn't dieting. So maybe not such a bad time to be doing something like this.
Yeah, it's probably really perfect timing.
Yeah.
COVID has come up a lot probably throughout the last few episodes of the vlog. And I think it really has made it a lot easier because you don't have a lot of those temptations or outings. So we're just at home together, eating together, and it's just kind of us doing our thing for the most part. And Kayla's been very on board with adjusting her diet around mine, and we've tried to make that work. And she's appreciative of the fact that I'll just do my dinner, my breakfast and stuff like that.
But I definitely think it makes it easier, 2 people eating the same thing. If we were going out or having dinners, birthdays, I might be ordering one thing, Sam might not even be eating if this was like outside of COVID. But so I definitely think it's easier on both people in a relationship if they're kind of eating the same foods. No doubt that our volumes of the foods are different, but they're relatively the same thing.
All right, the next question is, what's your socializing like now? Going out on dates particularly? I'll answer that one. So we don't really, I guess, again, COVID, but date night looks a lot different. Whereas, historically we'd really try and make a point of getting out, at least once a week, to spend time, together, or even just with friends, go out for a meal. I think we were very social. We were kind of always around our friends and stuff like that, which is great because obviously we get along with each other's friends and we have very mutual friends that we love. But because we haven't had a lot of those, the ability to go out, that's really not been on the cards for a decent period of time. Once so far in the prep, we went out for dinner and I brought my own food, and that was early on. And I didn't even need to do that. I probably could have just not eaten around it. But yeah, dates are probably different. Now it's Saturday nights are
home,
we'll
dumplings.
watch a movie, Friday night's dumpling night. So we're doing that. I guess there are dates now. Every night's date night. Because I've been sleeping in the mornings with no coaching, I feel like we get to walk together every morning. So we spend so much time together. I really appreciate our time together, which is really good. Kayla's a go-getter, so that helps as well because, if she wasn't getting up and doing her morning walk, which she did anyway, I don't know what I'd be doing. I'd be coaching normally, but not now.
I think that's something in COVID as well, and prep is needing to fill time. So if you haven't got anything to do, it puts you in a position of wanting to go maybe eat, do something like that. So I definitely think keeping each other busy, even outside of prep, or just, hanging out with friends, going for a walk, doing what you can, it will help. Yeah,
I think we spend a lot of time being active together, be it just going for walks or even going to get a coffee together, or with, if we're catching up with a single bubble friend or whatever it might be. Was physical intimacy an important aspect of your relationship, given that this is mostly ornamental at this stage? How has that impacted your relationship? So there's two questions there. Physical intimacy is obviously very important. I don't think, speaking candidly here, that Kayla and I, it was ever something that we really put heaps and heaps of stock into. There are times where it happens heaps and things are going really great and you're both in tune, I guess, with your own wants and needs and each other's. And then there are times where, other things get in the way, whatever. That's kind of it. But I think into the prep, we've been in a really good spot and have been for most of it, probably up until the last couple of weeks.
Yes, of course it's important. I don't think
arm wrestle.
I think in human nature it is for us, to be doing that. Obviously, I haven't prepped before in my life, but I'm pretty aware of what it takes and the things that it does. In knowing that, both of us coming into doing this, we're more aware of those things that are going to either happen or not happen.
Yeah.
So that's important, I guess, like having a little bit of knowledge.
And that was one thing I really tried to do from the outset. Like, I think I did a pretty good job, obviously working with physique athletes, understanding and having done one in the past. I knew what was involved to a larger extent. So that meant that I could forewarn Kayla and be like, these are the things that you can expect. And you have to understand that, when I don't have the energy, it is just part of the process. And trying to explain that, and that's a really hard one, I think, because definitely something that was hard for me, because like I knew that it was always going to be on the horizon. It was like something that is going to come up, like the physiological impacts on like sex drive, libido, like they're real. We spoke about it before I even started the prep, and just those impacts, and things have been really good probably up until just recently, and that's been like kind of just like taking a turn for the worse, if you will.
I think it's important to touch on as well that you don't think it's going to be you.
Yeah, everyone does. Everyone thinks it's not going to be them. You're not special.
Yeah.
I'm not special. If you diet right and long enough, well enough in a kind of bodybuilding prep, and you're like gunning for like elite physique and conditioning, it's gonna happen, I would think, to nearly everyone. I don't think it's impacted our relationship. I think our relationship's probably as strong as ever.
Yeah. I mean, we've been through a lot together.
Yeah.
House flooded twice. I mean, if this is not the deal breaker, then I'm not sure.
If we can make it through this, we probably clocked it. We might just end the relationship there and see if we can go do something else. Who knows? Onto bigger and better things. Well, definitely you bigger and better. Are there any aspects of your relationship which have taken main stage in its place? We've been smashing anime, but we were smashing anime even when we were fully capable of having sex. I guess...
I mean, that's something, I think, a small part of a relationship.
It's not the be-all and end-all, and I think...
it's not everything.
It is important, but I think a lot of people probably overhype it. Yeah, well, like, we literally watch TV, we hang on the couch together. Yeah. Kayla does her nightly scrolling, we watch anime, then we go to bed, we get up and we walk together, doing our thing. Are you both aligned in your dieting? How do you divide food? What's your fridge like? Well, our fridge is empty at the moment.
I actually think that's super interesting. I love looking at people's fridges online. It's weird, but...
It's like, submit your fridge and we'll rate it.
Yeah, no, I just want to see like what you've got in there, or like how organised it is. I like that.
We're both very aligned in our dieting. Whereas historically, Kayla would be the one who was like tracking and stuff like that, and I was very much just eating ad libitum, whatever I wanted. Our lunches, we've been meal prepping the same lunches together for like 3-4 years now. It's just like a thing, like it's our Sunday routine. Anyone who knows us really well knows that that's what we do. So really now it's just a little bit of extra time and attention from me because I do the cooking of our lunches on the weekend. I do all our containers. I just weigh mine, don't weigh hers, and they're all portioned very similarly. And then in the fridge, they're just like separated on one shelf, and we have like all our veg that's like open slather. My meals on one side, Kayla's meals on the other side. and then I have my like Chobani's and stuff like that, whereas Kayla's breakfast and stuff might change on a more regular basis. But for the most part, like today, it's like if there's food that I can't eat, I'm just going to start putting it onto her side where her lunches will go, and then she can eat that. And it's free reign because, you know, I can eat less and less and less. But I don't think... There's been times where we've like run out of stuff and Kayla's like full freaked out, being like, oh my God, we don't have this. And that's cool. Like,
I'm probably more...
she's more
pedantic,
anal retentive about that stuff.
Which is probably helpful in your prep.
Yeah, because like if I was like freaking out because we ran out of lettuce, it's like that's just problematic.
Where I would like go to the shops, even if it was like out of my way.
We also have like Coles and stuff right around the corner. We're never short of food, and I think food's probably like the only thing we've ever had an argument about, ever. And it was just like, it always baffles me, and we're just like, we're not going hungry. Well, I am, but we're still not going
Only
hungry.
now, not back then.
Still not going hungry. We're fortunate we have food on our plate. We have options. So if something runs out, it's not the end of the world, and we'll both live. Kayla, do you see any changes in Sam's behaviour? Start with that.
Small, probably more so recently. I guess it's hard though. It's even like noticing...
Should I leave?
No. Noticing someone, or like changes in someone if you see them every day. It's quite hard until maybe someone else points it out.
Who's pointing out what?
I don't drop names.
Let me at him.
No. Probably just more like short, like temper, or like maybe frustration is more the word that I'm looking for.
That's fucking bullshit.
No?
No, I'm kidding.
And it's really down to communication though. Like I don't think even like outside of a diet, small things can frustrate you. So it's kind of hard to be like that it happened specifically because you were dieting or not. So
yeah. I can definitely attest to that. Like I find myself, catch myself getting frustrated by stuff way earlier.
Yeah.
I'm trying really hard not to like let small stuff bother me. Before this recording started, Kayla, I asked if she could bring a t-shirt up, and she bought. I specified an anime t-shirt,
and I just grabbed the first one that was there,
which was just a plain t-shirt, and it didn't matter. But then she went down and got a t-shirt, and I was like bothered by that, fractionally. But I shouldn't be. It doesn't matter. It's just a t-shirt. Anyway, we move on. So yeah, I think being short, I'm already somewhat pedantic about stuff.
Yeah. I'm
not that bad. Like sometimes like the state you leave the kitchen in after I've just cleaned it, like we're doing okay.
Yeah.
Alright. Has the changes in my behaviour had any impact on you?
Oh no,
or
no.
Is there
Like I think
you're more conscious of things or more tolerant?
Probably like more tolerant now, just understanding, like knowing why those things are happening. I think if I was, say, fresh in this relationship, if we're calling it one, then it would be very different.
Friendship.
I wouldn't understand like why he was saying things that he was saying, or like maybe responding in a certain way. So I think definitely having the experience already and having such a strong relationship before starting with a prep has made the biggest difference in knowing why someone's doing what they're doing, feeling how they're feeling.
I think
hungry can make you do really, really bad things.
It's
like,
not even just the hunger, because like I'm still really not like hungry. It's more just like the gradual physiological changes. Like it just must like slowly chip away at your soul. I'm convinced, because it's not like I'm waking up going, I'm fucking hungry, I need to eat something. It's like I'm not like snapping because I haven't had a meal. Like I'm eating sufficiently well still, like I'm alive. And the last question, so what advice do you have for couples out there who are also competing, or like one's competing and one's not? Like I know communication is like seriously the only thing.
Even just for like I'm not Oprah here, or I shouldn't be giving love advice, but communication is key. Yeah,
like I think that goes without saying. And it's like, as a professional and a coach who works with people, it's like one thing that I see all the time is people kind of maybe sometimes fool themselves into thinking, like we said earlier, some of these physiological or like, maybe negative attributes of extensive dieting, they're not going to happen to them. Or they put their blinders up and they just kind of, maybe they're dieting for the wrong reasons. Maybe they're in a new relationship and they can't have some of these conversations. But, you know, if you get 3 months into a 6-month prep and you are incapable of having sex without thinking about food, like, if you can't communicate that with someone, they're going to be like, what the fuck's going on? And potentially create issues. So Kayla has experienced dieting personally. She also trains and appreciates my goals, and we speak about, you know, what we want to achieve in life. And this was something that's kind of been on the cards for years, and it's just more a matter of when, not if. And, you know, we talk about it. She's seen other people compete, so, you know, that helps. I've done it before. That definitely helps because, again, you know what to look out for. You know what that process kind of involves. I very much think we do have a strong relationship and did going into it. Again, you know, we weren't like on different pages, which would, like, you know, a bodybuilding prep would just make that worse. You know, if you're already not seeing eye to eye, you have one person wants this, one person wants that, you know. It's like food has always been an important part of our relationship, you know, going out, eating with friends and stuff like that.
But they'll always be there.
Yeah, but at no point should Kayla have to make those sacrifices on my behalf, even though obviously, you know, she is to a large extent. Sometimes if you're in a relationship and it's like one person wants to go out and eat and the other person's like, no, I got my container of food, or they say they'll bring their container of food and the other person doesn't want them to because maybe that's like embarrassing or whatever, like those like constant where they're trying to have a relationship but they both want different things, I see how that would become, you know, increasingly demanding on both people throughout a prep. So
I definitely think as well, it makes it easier not being exposed. I.e., like if I'm eating the same thing, you don't know what you're missing out on. I imagine
Yes, I
it
do.
would, no,
Yes, I do.
not at that moment. Where
No.
if I was eating something different or we were
Yeah,
eating out
that's a good
and then
one.
I'm ordering something and Sam's not ordering something,
Yeah.
you see right then and there what you're missing out on. So I definitely think
Actually, that's a really good point. Like if I was trying to, like, it's like I say to you, it's like we're not really going out and stuff like that. Like we can go and I'm happy to go and be there, but I'm not going to eat and stuff like that. It's like that's not intended for Kayla not to live her life, but just to be, you know, clear and set those like standards early on. So if she wants to go, I'm happy to go, whatever. But then if we go, she doesn't feel like, you know, or there's no animosity, there's no like, oh my God, I can't believe you ate that in front of me. You know, which you hear all the time, like people, you know, it's like certainly there's food envy and it's like you go, oh, I'd love to be able to go out and have pizza, but it's like, this is temporary. It's not going to last forever. You know, we can eat the same food, we can cook at home, we can make it do, you know, I can miss out. I'm making sacrifices, she's as well, absolutely making sacrifices. But at the end of the day, as the person in the prep, you're the one responsible for making the sacrifices, and you need to try and minimize the amount of suckiness that other people around you have to experience in getting to stage. Kayla's the best in the world, obviously, because she's also making sacrifices, but I don't expect her to make all of the same sacrifices. There will come a time where that's not reasonable when lockdown finishes, right? If it ever finishes. It's like, and she wants to go out for dinner, that's fine, go out for dinner. Maybe I'll come, maybe I won't, but I'll go for dinner with you again. You know, It's not all about food. Life's not all about food. So
I definitely get that it's a social aspect though, and it is the main thing that does join people together. Like you think of like Christmas or like birthdays, it's like cake.
It's the nexus. It's the nexus.
Or maybe it's just like the vessel to what's happening. So it's not everything.
Okay, Brendan Vassallo. So basically it's like being married with kids, the action dies. Yeah, pretty much. But I think if you have kids and the action dies, you had kids, so the actions can't be that dead, can it? This one's to you, Kayla, from Suze. Is Samuel grumpy as f***? If so, has this affected your relationship?
No.
Sue should know that I am a grumpy as person anyway, so Kayla was already used to it.
No, so I don't think he's grumpy, not yet, but you'll probably know when he is.
Yeah, you'll know because she won't be here. Next time we do a couples update, it'll just be me by myself.
It'll be the breakup.
Yeah, the end of the relationship. Emma Goods, what impact, positive or negative, does mood swings, low libido, and constant focus on prep have on your relationship? So I guess that's a good one, because I feel like all I ever hear about is like prep, diet, food, training. It's like they're big parts of my life anyway and our lives. But this is very much like hyper focused.
And given there's not much going on anyway,
there's less to focus on as well. Like I was really looking forward to, I had like some trips for work, competitions on and stuff like that for powerlifting and whatever. And I was like keen as, because they're like going to break shit up.
Like the mundane day-to-day.
Yeah.
But at the same time, we spoke about earlier that these things going ahead may have actually had like impacts to the food that you would have ate on those trips, or you know, the actual organizing of like what food do I have or what do I need to prep. Even I noticed one thing is the actual math behind logging everything every day, like making sure you're getting that right.
Fucking work.
Like I have to give it to you, that's not easy. Like I have like tracked before, but it's never been to the degree that Sam's doing at the moment. Like,
but again, like I have to, like, I play macro Tetris, so I can have a little bit more flexibility with my diet. That is a double-edged sword, and I don't recommend it for everyone. I certainly wouldn't recommend it for a lot of clients, because frankly they don't have the know-how to do it effectively, and they're going to be changing too many variables. So I'm doing it now.
What do you mean by that?
Well,
like
when dieting, you need a degree of confidence in what you're doing, frankly, in order, particularly for a contest prep, because you only have a finite amount of time to be ready. And if you're going and changing a lot of your food and stuff, you know, and your partner's having this, and you're like, oh, I want to try some of that. So you're like always fucking around with your macros, trying to make something work. Like you're just adding a lot of different variables that are going to mean you're spending heaps and heaps of time on, you know, your whatever tracking app, or you're like always weighing, measuring, stuff like that. So my food, I don't know your code. My food is very much like just regimented, and I try to keep it so. And again, it's just more like where I'm recording certain things, like reporting to like Jason and Martin, making sure things all stack up in my fitness pal. But like the foods are all very much the same on a regular basis. Like the food variety hasn't changed in weeks, and it's just getting fewer and fewer and fewer as we go. Deeper in the prep, it'll probably go to a point of where it's like, and we've spoken about this, like dinners used to be like, I used to do breakfast, lunch and snack with the same every day, with like maybe slight variations between there. Dinner we would change on a nightly basis. Now we have a weekly schedule for dinners. It's like fish, white fish on Mondays, kangaroo burgers on.
We plan out our week.
Which actually goes into the next question, which do we eat the same food, or our meals the same? Yeah, so we eat.
So this is, I don't know if
we
you
eat
can zoom in on that, but
no.
This is our little weekly.
We can get a screenshot for it.
Yeah.
So we have a weekly menu that's like basically drives, or guides our meals each dinner.
I think even outside of a prep, we were even doing that anyway, and it makes things so much easier. One, you know what you need to buy for like the week, or you're not just like going to the shops each night and saying, oh, I need
what are we going to get, random things.
And you know what, planning what to eat is hard. Like thinking of things like to keep it interesting is hard. So it's good having like a little menu set for the week. And I think that's important when to prep. It's just like you need to be prepared.
Yeah, exactly, as the name suggests. Our meal's different to Sam's was the question. So for the most part,
they're virtually the same.
Very similar.
Yeah.
Very similar bases.
Just different volumes. Yeah. I might have like more sauces and stuff at the moment.
You have a different breakfast as well.
Yeah.
But
mostly
that's cool. Our calories are going to be very similar soon, so maybe we will just go on the exact same fucking. But even then, our macros would be different if you're tracking that accurately. Next question from Owen: what changes have you felt other than physical through the long deficit? So changes that I've felt, like clothes not fitting the same. That's a little bit frustrating. You try and fill time with like other things. So You know, being at home, not having, say, work distractions. I've got myself into a good routine, like I mentioned earlier.
Cold?
Dragging my feet a bit more, cold. Like, I'm slow to get up in the morning. Like, whereas, like, sometimes I just kind of like bounce out of bed, whereas I'm definitely finding I'm slowing in some capacities and leaning around on things a lot. Like, I still get fuckloads of steps. Like, my steps are 14 to 15,000 plus Marto's added now 30 minutes of cardio on top of that. But I'm getting like more like lethargic and avoiding activity around my planned activity or NEAT. Now, the last question from our good friend Jackson Peos, and obviously the best question to finish on: frequency of bangs off season versus contest season. Jackson, it's decreased by a factor of a third, so it's down, but it's still up sometimes. It just takes more effort. That's all the questions. The last one was from Tanea. Interested to see how we're coping and how Kayla's holding up, which is really nice.
Thank you for asking.
Kayla's great, aren't you? Tell them you're great.
Yes.
She's the greatest.
Nah, it's been good so far. I'm super excited to see Sam, you know, at the end of this.
She just loves watching me fucking suffer. You see this?
Not at all.
This is bullshit.
Not at all. Yeah, I'll be excited. Hopefully we can get to Queensland. That would be great.
Yeah, and we have stuff to look forward to as well, like beyond the comps. I think that also helps. The last thing I'll say before we finish, because it's nearly dinner time, is this is temporary. We have spoken about the impacts, you know, at length and continue to do so we're on the same page. We communicate very openly and honestly always. I think we have had a strong relationship and have an even stronger relationship now, and we'll continue to thrive and do our thing. And I'm sure there'll be days where Kayla wants to, you know, punch me in the head, or push me down a flight of stairs. But, you know, I very much appreciate her being along the ride with me, you know, helping with things like shave my body and, you know, just being involved in the process. Like, she does get what I believe is, you know, enjoyment out of, you know, helping and being part of the goals and seeing me succeed in what I'm setting out to do, because we do care about each other's success personally and together.
Bye.